our zeal, our jealousy, our fury about things righteous is appropriate and when it's misguided. Hi, this is Barry Phillips with 10-Minute Torah, day number 1 of the Torah portion, Pinchas. Very, very interesting Torah portion, at least as it starts out, and then it kind of gets into some details, but very, very powerful story that we need to pay attention to because it relates so powerfully to our current day. Let's begin with the man Pinchas. King James calls him Phineas. The Hebrew word here is Pinchas. If we understand him correctly, he is the grandson of Aaron. His father is the high priest, the Kohen Hagadol at this point, Eleazar. And he has been raised in the knowledge of the Torah. It's interesting. If you look in the book of Shemot or Exodus chapter 6, I believe around verse 25, you will find that Eleazar married a daughter of Putiel, who is also known as Yitro, or Moshe's father-in-law. At least the rabbis say so. In other words, Pinchas's mother would have been a Midianite. Who are we dealing with here but Moabite and Midianite women? Yah is saying distress the Midianites in this particular Torah portion because of their deception in the matter of Baal Peor. And so we understand then that Pinchas is half Midianite, and yet he acts zealously in behalf of the Elohim of the Hebrews. In other words, he has made his choice. Family lines were divided, and he was forced to decide, where do I stand? Let's examine the name Pinchas itself. It begins with the letter Pei, referencing the mouth, which is the root also of the word pane, or the face. And so we have the idea then of one's image or one's presentation. We might be able to say one's presence. If you were standing in front of my face, you're standing in my presence. Then we have Nakas. Nakash is serpent, or the image of the serpent. Remember, it is the root of the word Nakashet, which is the serpent that was on the pole, the bronze serpent, that when the people were bitten by fiery serpents, just in the last Torah portion, they could look up at that image and there would be healing. What's interesting then is that as you put the presence of the image of the brass serpent together as the name of Pinchas, again, that's just putting bits and pieces together and coming up with an idea, not declaring a doctrine here, just an idea. The Nakashet, the bronze serpent or the brass serpent on the pole, when people looked at it, the plague stopped. Pinchas, if his name can be construed to mean presence or pay of the image of the brass serpent, he also put an end to a plague. Interesting. It's just an interesting idea here. So what he has done is in response to blatant idolatry. Tomorrow I will deal a little bit more in depth with what Zimri and Cosby did to bring on this plague. We'll leave that for tomorrow. Today I want to talk about zeal. Pinchas acted in a zealous manner, putting it in to an obvious affront to Yah. Yah's command is, do not have any other gods and then throw them up in my face. That's the second command. I will have no other gods or mighty ones in my face. Another way of translating that or understanding that, and we've talked about this before, is Yah is saying, do not take the imagery of your Elohim, your mighty ones, your idol gods that is false and based on lies, and take their imagery and put it on my face and equate the two. He is saying, I will not be renamed. I will not be re-imaged. I will not be conformed to your preferences. I am that I am. I am who I am. And I will not be re-identified to your own pleasure. So do not equate me with your gods. Do not count me among other gods. There are no other gods but me. That's Yah's words. And I will especially not have you throw them up in my face. When you and I choose an idol, and for most of us, that's just not going to be some kind of a graven image of gold, silver, wood, or stone. But when we adhere to and give loyalty to, pay significance to, homage to, when we promote something, someone, to the exception of Yah, Yah counts that as a personal affront. When we violate any of his commands because we justify it in our own eyes, well, it doesn't mean that to me. Well, it was just this one time, etc. Then Yah takes that personal. After all, he has spared no expense and no cost to redeem us. How much more does he have to perform in our behalf in the way of deliverance, in the way of victory, in the way of salvation, and the way of shalom and healing and encouragement and giving hope and the promise of his kingdom? What else does he have to do to deserve your absolute and 100% commitment to loyalty, to loving him beyond all question? There's nothing else that needs to be done or demonstrated. It's all there. And so for you and I to lay any part of that aside and say, well, and then we excuse, I can see where Yah would take that personally. And so Yah's zeal rises up in the face of idolatry, in that we also then have to accept the doctrines of that idolatry in competition to the truth of Yah. Whatever our idol espouses, promotes, teaches us, causes us to contemplate and reason, then Yah takes that personal. And so we find that Pinchas acted zealously. He not only saved the lives of a few, but of a nation. The plague stopped. I'm being careful with my words here, but there are many of us that in our zeal and our passion for truth, we took this great and novel knowledge that we have acquired about things Hebraic and Scripture, and we've gone to our families and our friends, and we have just, in a major fashion, unloaded on them. And they pulled back and they rejected. And our zeal was understandable, but probably not beneficial in that we were overly zealous. When it comes to zeal, it needs to be measured. In Pinchas's day and in his actions, he could not have acted zealously enough. But for us and our zeal and our passion for Yah, give our family and our friends a bite, something, and back off and let them chew. And zealously love them and demonstrate the joy of what we already know to be true. It's the great balancing act. It's hard to do. Tomorrow we'll pick up here and go into the details a little further. Until then, shalom.